Peace, what's going on, Soul Group? So basically, I'm just making a video. It's a follow-up to the video I made a while back called How to Rectify Domestic Issues, where basically I just took the starting point, which is always going to be the cardinal house, because it's the house that, initiates the actual, like rotation of the elements when it comes to the zodiac and the houses and everything like that. So with this instance, we're going to be talking about, from the perspective of the earth houses, how to rectify life issues. So whereas with the water houses, we were talking about domestic issues, starting from the 4th house to the 12th house, this time it's going to be life issues in general, starting with the 10th house to the 6th house. And the reason I say life issues is because, as Uriel has taught the Soul Group, you know what I'm saying, that, or has reminded us for the most part, that Saturn rules this realm when it comes to, how we see this realm. That's literally one of the elements of how Saturn represents itself in your birth chart, is how you see reality. So with that being said, life in general is reality. Everything 3D, this tire, this car, the rain outside and everything like that, it's all 3D. It's all representation of Saturn, even though we're all created of every single element via the planets, even from different stars and certain gases and cosmic dust and stuff like that. That's another topic for another day. We're going to be talking about life issues. And I actually had this written down and everything, because I actually want to make this a series. I want to start doing how to rectify your creative issues, which deals with the fire houses, and then how to rectify social issues when it comes to the air houses and everything like that. So we're going to start with the life issue. Well, this is life issues. We're going to start with the 10th house. Now, the 10th house is the time, I have this written down, the time and status of a situation, the start and blueprint of how you get from point A to point B, how a life problem arises. Now, when I say a life problem, I'm not always talking about, a super detriment, situation like not being able to get a bill paid or being kicked out onto the streets and everything like that because you couldn't pay like a hotel bill if you were like staying from hotel to hotel and everything like that. But basically what the situation is it's any situation. You could be at work, you know what I'm saying? You could be at work and this life issue, well, it's more so of a status issue. Also at the same time, it's a life and a status issue because it's talking about the 10th house, which on the whole overall scale of the 10th house is dealing with your status. So let me just use an example. I mean, I can use my work as an example. Let me just use a simple example. Let's say, starting from the 10th house, let's say you're at work. And when you're at work, you have a certain task. Let's say you work in retail, and retail stores give out, certain credit cards or rewards cards, for, saving purchases and, and points and stuff like that. If you work in retail, you know what I'm talking about. So you could be learning something new in this job, and, you know what I'm saying? And this plays out for people differently depending on what sign you actually have in this particular house. And I'll use me as an example. Actually, in this whole example right here, with my job, because I do work in retail. That's why I'm using this as an example. So let's say you're learning something new. Now, let's start with me. I have Sagittarius in the 10th house. So already with Sagittarius in the 10th house, that's going to make my 10th house modified to be a very visionary 10th house. Learning a lot, always having light bulb moments, always having situations of where I can adapt to the way people go about a particular issue. In this case, a life issue or just a situational problem in general, depending on if it's macro or micro. So if you're at work or if I'm at work and I have Sagittarius in the 10th house and Saturn rules the 10th house and Mars is exalted in the 10th house. So with me having fire in the 10th house, mutable fire to be exact, I'm able to be very transparent and very adaptable to the way people express how the situation is, like multiple different perspectives of how, okay, this is the best way I can explain, especially for my situation, having Sagittarius in the 10th house. With me having Sagittarius in the 10th house, I can learn the same like actual process, but from different people's point of view, basically. And it's very expressive, too. It's always played out into a situation where it's very fast, I'm learning really fast, you know what I'm saying? I'm having to, catch things really fast in a lot of different ways, because with mutable fire, it's basically like the ambers of a fire or a fireplace that are like going out and like turning black, basically. So it's fire that's, it's leaving, the whole reality in general, basically. So I have to learn things like super quick, basically. So it's like, okay, 10th house, that's a status issue, a life issue. And if you want to take that into a macro level too, let me use this. The car I'm sitting in right now is not working at the moment. So I've been working a long time trying to find multiple different perspectives of how to get this car fixed, where I need to go. I'm not a mechanic. I'm not, to be honest with you, when it comes to my energy, I'm not very grounded, and I'm not very, practical in certain issues. I'm an air sun. I'm an Aquarius sun, and I have a Pisces rising. I have a Cancer moon. A lot of my energy, the most earth I have in my energy is Venus, Neptune, and Uranus in Capricorn. And then the South Node in Taurus and Chiron in Virgo. Which actually, at the end of the day, now that I think about it, those are pretty balanced earth energies. But for the most part, my energy is dominated by fire-esque energy and water-esque energy. Really, air is more so my sun and my Mercury sign. But anyway, that's besides the point, to be honest with you. Retracking, talking about the 10th house and how this is basically the blueprint of a situation. This is the starting point of where there's something, like if you're at work and you're working in retail and you're learning something new, like let's say you need to teach yourself how to go about, asking a customer how they want to sign up for something, basically. And you want to learn how to, go about it and try to make it into a situation. If you have Gemini in the 10th house, let's use Gemini as an example. If you have Gemini in the 10th house, you might, or not even just Gemini, if you have Mercury in the 10th house and everything like that, you'll probably work more towards trying to like communicate certain things. If we're talking about working in retail, you'll be able to communicate in a certain way to where if if you work this Mercury in your 10th house right, you'll actually be able to convince this person. And see, this is very, very minute examples, because everything is astrology. So you can take every little bit and detail of how someone's natal chart works, working it with yours and working it with how the real life works, because the whole world is a natal chart in and of itself. Everything, every aspect of life can be deemed from the stars and everything like that. And from everything, whether you want to talk about the conscious community, anything, regardless of what color, race of people is doing anything that's developed in what we call consciousness, that's based upon the sun, that's based upon you seeing something a certain way and everything like that. And then when we talk about videos that talk about domestic issues, when we talk about videos that have to do with cooking, sewing, how to keep your house clean, that would be more so moon energy, because you're basically developing a platform for how to get yourself comfortable, basically. Mercury with debates and but that, again, that's a whole nother video. I don't even feel like I'm staying on topic at this point. So yeah, let me actually just, instead of trying to use this for abusing me as an example, let me just get to the fucking point now. So 10th house, this is the blueprint of a situation. This is any situation that you're in, like what I was saying with using work. And if what the blueprint you're working on is, how the fuck am I going to be able to communicate how to, well, if we're talking, I was talking about if you have Mercury in the 10th house, but if you don't have Mercury in the 10th house, then it's just the way you go about this blueprint in general. Like I have Venus in the 10th house, so if someone was to approach me about a rewards thing, I would be very sweet about it. I'd have a very tender tone to my voice and everything like that. And with me having a tender tone, regardless, even if they didn't sign up or not, the energy will still resonate with them, and they'll be like, and maybe later on they'll rethink it and everything. Now, this isn't a video trying to, pressure people to buy something that's corporate and everything like that, but this is just basically the bare basic example of how rectifying a life issue start with the 10th house even starts. That's the first thing that you notice that you need to work on. Now finally getting into how you now apply this to the second house. Now the second house is the fixed house. This is the fixed earth house. Like Uriel says, this is the plant and seed house. This is where you actually plant the seed. And actually, Capricorn, the 10th house, was how you think about, okay, what seed am I going to use? what day am I going to plant this seed on, what kind of water, what kind of soil am I going to use. And then the 10th house, the second house is you actually watering this seed. So the second house, this is going to be like you actually working on the situation, basically. This is going to be you actually taking the bricks, the esoteric bricks, regardless of what situation it is, or even real bricks if we're talking about rectifying a life issue on a macro level as far as building a motherfucking house. But actually, this is just building the issue. This is actually going now to actually make shit happen, basically. You got Venus here. So Venus, this is the physical side of Venus. Like, this is more so, not so much Libra-ish, 7th house Venus, where it's very flirtatious, it's a very charming kind of Venus. This is more so the Venus of, okay, you see, we're here, and the moon's exalted in the second house too. So not only is Venus loving and appreciating, and it has something to fucking stand on coming from the 10th house, as far as a house that it can appreciate that it has, so it's not sitting out in the fucking dark all day, in the fucking mud all day. But now you're super comfortable now, because now you've built your own house. So now you feel like it's like a thing of sovereignty almost. It's like an energy of sovereignty. Not even if you're not sovereign on a documentary level, if that makes sense. You know, this all has to do with energy and resonance and everything like that when we're talking about the way I'm breaking it down as far as a very spiritual way, because like I said, this is a macro and a micro way of looking at it. Going back to the example I was using about, you know, retail and everything like that. Using the 10th house, the blueprint is, okay, I need to find a way of how to actually go about doing this, like how to approach this with somebody. Now I need to actually work on it. So now whatever influences you have in the second house, that's going to be how you're actually building, you working on what the 10th house, what you were trying to work on with the 10th house. The second house is you actually working on that, you know, hammering the shit into it, basically. So let me use me for example. Like I said, if I was approaching somebody with a rewards card and I was using my Venus in the 10th house to make myself appear very, you know, tender, very, you know, sweet, very comfortable with the situation of how to sign up, regardless if they signed up or not. Maybe they'd have that thought again, like, oh, well, his energy was really sweet, maybe I'll reconsider next time. But basically, sorry, with the fucking hair and everything like that. With the second house, using me for an example, I have the South Node in the second house. So actually, this is something that I'm familiar with. This is something that I'm comfortable with, actually. Me actually trying to go about this, is actually, you know, this is something that I can, you know, get into the rhythm of, basically like that. Now, it just depends on what energies you have there. And I also have Aries in the second house, so I'm very passionate about it. I'm very dancey about it. I'm very antsy about, you know, wanting to, you know, actually get this right, basically, and everything like that. I get very down on myself, which is something that I need to work on, definitely. But this is a quality that I can't overshadow about myself, because I'm still trying to improve myself as a whole individual spirit. So that's the second house, you know, that's you actually building, you know, putting the bricks into the situation and everything like that so it can become solid now. Now getting to the 6th house. Basically, and if I'm going to read down the second house, even though I pretty much just explained it written down, this is basically the time and work you put into a situation, the blood, sweat, and tears of a situation to manifest a certain look from the 10th house. Major appreciation after the work. So I basically just said that shit. I don't even know why. Maybe I just wanted to see if I missed a point, basically. Now, finally, the 6th house. Now, the 6th house is a Mercury house. It's the Virgo house. So this is going to be after, you know, you've pretty much figured out, okay, what do I need to work on? Working on it. And now what can come after the fact. Not even what can come after the fact, but you're just basically thinking about everything that you just done, basically. So basically, when it comes to the 6th house, this is the transparent earth house, the misty earth house. When it comes to, you know, it being a mutable house, the rest and time you put in to analyze what you have worked on and the details of what can be improved upon to enhance a positive circumstance from the 10th house. So the kind of like, one thing I forgot to mention, now that I'm thinking about the first video with the domestic issues, is that it's not just, you know, you figuring out the domestic issue, and then you know, using the 8th house to solidify that ice cube of that, you know, emotion that you had, and then, you know, bringing it into the 12th house and having super deep faith and belief on it. Now, that is the archetype, but that's something that you have to, like, keep improving on, and basically like that. It's like the more you put into this energy, basically, the more what you were trying to manifest from that 4th house will actually bring itself into fruition. So now with the earth house, since it is an earth aspect, you have to have more patience. So basically with the 6th house, it's like, okay, going back to the reward situation. Once again, I'm using a simple example so people can understand. That's why Uriel uses simple examples, because these are basically parables in a lot of different ways. To have people, to not even just people from our soul group, but if anybody else who's not in the soul group comes across this, regardless of what they think about me or whatnot, some white boy fucking breaking down knowledge and everything like that. Not saying that this has anything to do with race, but with the climate that's going on in this physical world, no coincidence I'm talking about earth houses, white people are looked at in a very negative way. Now, that doesn't mean get upset about it. It is what it is. That's another video. Don't want to get too deep about race, but I will make a video explaining how that can be rectified in a whole lot of different ways. So the 6th house is you analyzing everything that you just worked on. So with the reward situation, you took the 10th house, you said, okay, I need to work on how to approach people with the rewards thing. So with the 2nd house, you worked on it. Let me keep using myself as an example. 10th house, Venus. I'm very loving and appreciating. I'm very sweet in the way I approach, you know, the actual reward situation. And the 2nd house is me actually building the situation. And it's actually, my South Node is there. And I also have Pallas there, but I need to do more research on the asteroids. I know Uriel has videos, but it's been a while since I've seen those. So, with the South Node, the way I'm going about it, it's very comfortable. I'm already comfortable, you know, communicating with people in this way. Even though my whole life now, that's a whole nother video. I don't even want to get into that, honestly. But that's basically just the energies, how they play out in general. So now, with the 6th house, I have Mars in the 6th house. I also have the planet Earth, you know, because the sun opposites the Earth. I'll talk about Earth in another video. Mars is going to play out that aspect of, you know, me, you know, contemplating everything that is just happening and everything like that. And it's Mars retrograde too. And I have Leo in the 6th house. So now after, you know, setting the blueprint, working on the blueprint, and now, you know, analyzing everything that's just happened. Regardless if a person, okay, let me just use an example since I'm still talking about this simple example. Let's say after you're working on that, let's say after everything is said and done, you get approached with someone saying like, oh, well, you didn't do this could go back to even if you have a good attitude about something. I don't know why I just did that. That was weird. Even if you have a good attitude about something from the 10th and the 2nd house, and even if from what the company doesn't see is not producing results, when this is going into now how you're seeing things through the 6th house, now you could be criticized for the situation, and also you could react to your own self-criticism or criticism of the situation of what it had to offer and the way it presented itself in the first place. So let's say you were sweet with approaching the whole credit situation. You were comfortable with it due to me talking about, now I'm just talking about myself with the South Node. Now, depending on if you got good results and everything like that, or if you didn't get a lot of people to sign up and people are criticizing you, now I have Mars in the 6th house. Now, you know, with Mars being in retrograde, that can create a bubbly. That's kind of where I was getting at a few minutes ago when I was talking about I get down on myself a lot. That's actually, a lot of that kind of comes from that heat from Mars being in that that criticizing house. That heat, it's always boiling. It's always like the temperature is always high in my 6th house and everything. Especially with it getting retrograde. That's like you left the oven on for a certain amount of time. Now the whole goddamn house is on fire. Now the 6th house is burning up, basically. That's just one analogy to look at it. But I could react, even though the moon is about reactions, but I could react negatively about, not externally really for say, now if someone else had this energy and they didn't know how to control themselves, they probably could explode and it could be a physical scene. But more so if I get criticized if I didn't meet a quota, or vice versa if it's positive, you know, like, oh, Bradley got so and so, you know, well, you know how jobs do and everything like that. And this isn't, I'm not downplaying the job or anything. I'm just literally using this as an example and everything. So with that being said, I'm losing track and everything like that. This video has been going on for 20 minutes. Was not expecting that. But with that being said, I need to stop. I feel like I need to come up with my own phrase. When you watch other people for so long, it's not that you're copying them and everything like that. It's not that you're trying to be like them. It's just you've literally watched them so many times that now you've adapted certain, like, the way you say certain things. That's just like if you grow up in an environment and everything like that. That's like if you grew up in the suburbs, you're gonna talk quote unquote proper, even though none of this shit, you know, linguistics, proper, or what they call ebonics, they're none of that. Look, everybody, when you're in a certain vibration, due to outside circumstances putting other people in certain vibrations via neighborhoods and hoods and fucking, you know, shit like that, basically, projects and fucking, and then you have middle standard houses, kind of like, this is kind of like the neighborhood I live. It's not super bougie, and it's not super hood. It's kind of like a mixture of everything in between. But I'm not here to talk about all that shit. So anyway, let me go way back. Let me go all the way back and actually finish this fucking situation with how to rectify life issues. Now, away from using myself as an example, basically the 10th house is the blueprint and the second house is you working on everything. Now when we get to the 6th house, this is basically the whole criticization of the whole situation, whether it's from yourself or it's from others. So you got to be careful, especially with what energy you have in the 6th house. That's going to be how you play it out. So I have Leo. So if I get criticized, sometimes I put myself in a situation where I want to be seen, whether it's, oh, why is this, or even so much more internal, like, God dang it, like, am I doing something wrong? And then you'll be thinking people looking at you a certain way, seeing the sun and everything like that. This shit is deep, to be honest with you. I haven't made a video in a long time. That's why I'm just kind of stammering and everything like that. Not saying that it's bad. I mean, you know what I'm saying? When we're all developing YouTube videos, even if we're not used to it, doing it a lot, you know what I'm saying? This is basically, you know, our esoteric journal, our esoteric diaries. We're taking notes for our own selves, and then leaving these notes for people in the soul group, because everybody, I encourage everybody to make videos in the soul group, even if, and don't worry about, like, thinking that, you know, oh, they're all talking about the same shit. Well, basically, the fact that we're even giving our own perspective, if someone was to make a video talking about how to rectify life issues, they could probably bring up a whole different example rather than retail and everything like that. I just happen to work in retail, so that's the example that I use to grab out of my reality, basically. Or with the car situation. You know what I'm saying? You could take this into every realm of reality, basically. But basically, how I even just broke this down, you know what I'm saying, with just, you know, how to rectify life issues. This is the skeleton of everything, basically. And then I'm just giving you my own experiences, basically. Just like how I don't think I really got too personal with the domestic issues, because when it comes to water energy, I know how water energy works. I'm a Pisces rising and a Cancer moon. So I have to be, especially with that Cancer moon, I got to be more private when it comes to my domestic issues and everything like that. But when it comes to, you know, this shit, this earth shit, basically, you know, I'm more comfortable expressing, like, what I got going on in my life, even if I'm not saying the company name and everything like that, because I do want to protect my job at the end of the day, even though, you know, you're not going to ever be 100% satisfied with your work unless you have your own business. At the end of the day, you got to do what you got to do, and you still got to build revenue for when you want to get to the point to where you're actually in your own business and everything like that. You got to put yourself in certain energies, even if you're at work. Psych yourself up when you're at work and you're checking people out. Be like, this is my fucking business, even though people would think you are fucking batshit crazy if you said that shit out loud, basically, like that. And that's an internal thing right there. You know what I'm saying? That's something that you have to really put faith. Going back to the water houses, you got to have faith in that situation. Water and earth go hand in hand because it's a sextile and an opposition, so it's a give and receive energy. So that actually makes sense of how I'm bringing this into the earth house situation. So I think y'all pretty much get the point of what I'm trying to break down. The 10th house is the blueprint. This is the what you're going to write down of how I'm going to actually get about this situation and everything like that. The 2nd house is you actually putting the bricks into the house of what you wrote down on the blueprint, and now you're doing the dimensions and everything like that. And the 6th house is you stand back and be like, God damn, I actually made this shit. But then there's this little thing and everything like that. That's kind of, let me go back. That's kind of like what I was saying with the houses. When it comes to the earth houses, is more patience that needs to be involved because we're talking about earth. And with earth in the 3rd dimension, things are moving a lot slower. Whereas if we were in the 4th, 5th, and 6th dimension, things would be like a day down here would be like a millisecond up there, basically. Vice versa. As higher we go up and everything like that. But yeah, I'm going to build on this more. And eventually I'm going to come back with y'all about how to rectify your creative issues. And I can speak some more on that because since I am a musician and you see me, I be having my trumpet down here. Well, I don't have the trumpet on YouTube, but if you follow me on Instagram, I have pictures of me with a trumpet and everything like that. That's besides the point. And my Instagram is Bradley Core. That's it. Like no extra. I think it's 95 or something. Anyway, this isn't an Instagram. This isn't an Instagram commercial, and this video is going a lot longer than I thought. So I'm going to catch y'all later. Be expecting some music videos soon as far as me playing and everything like that. I want to be able to express that more as Venus goes into Pisces, which is my rising sign. So this is going to be a good time for me to really, you know, express this, you know, creative side to me that I really have. Because when it comes to my own energy, that Pisces rising is really one of the main driving forces of my creativity, along with my Mars and Leo. And my sun being in the 12th house and my moon being in the 5th house. I just have that gift. And if you have those energies too, then you have that gift too. Now, you could have other energies, but just the way you go about it, you can still be musical, but, you know, they just modify it in a different way. But I've been rambling for too long. Y'all have a great rest of your Tuesday. Be safe. It's Mars Day. Take full advantage of that red Martian energy. You'll manifest your shit. Peace.